Hello, I'm Wonder001 and this is my review of Pocket Casts. This is a podcast player for Android and iOS. This is the Android variant. I upgraded to this particular podcast player, used Podkicker for the longest time, review up there. I even upgraded for 99 cents to the ad-free version of Podkicker because I liked it that much and used it for years. However, I decided it was time to step up my game. I wanted some more features. I wanted more toys to play with. So I ended up upgrading to Pocket Casts here. Now, I will say that this is not a free download. This is a $3.99 app. So you round it up, figure $4. But with that, you get a lot of premium features that I did not have in that other one. Now, you also do get a trial period. So if you end up not liking it, you can just say, I want a refund. So when you first launch Pocket Casts, there are several screens that you can be brought to. This screen right here is the primary one, which is your podcast in this particular display. You'll notice in the corner of some of my podcasts, there is a number. That number indicates the number of new episodes for that particular podcast. Now, on this page is a lot to talk about, so I'm going to kind of walk you around here. At the bottom here, this is the currently playing area. So if I press play, it will start the podcast. You can't quite hear it. You'll notice that I now have an icon up here in the tray. And if I drag down, I get the graphic, I get the title and episode, and I have my skip back, skip forward, and play just from here, even if the app was closed. Now, I did expand it all the way down, so you can see from the lock screen, it would just have a shortened version right there. It's nice. Coming over here to the hamburger button, if we click on that, you have options for this particular page. You can sort the order, how small the grid is, and hide the badges if you wanted to. Plus sign over here indicates adding a podcast, so you would just click on that. It brings you to another area, which is discovery, which I'll talk about a little later. You have your share button right here, so you can choose what you want to share and then share it via most of the Google services. There are other options as well. If we come over and click on a podcast, it will list out all the podcasts in that particular feed. It will show you that these ones that have the play button next to them are ones that I can play right now. These are past ones that I have downloaded. Notice they said played episodes versus new episodes. It shows you the date comes out, title, all that fun, happy stuff. Coming up to the corner, again, when you're in a podcast, changes what these options do. You can share just this podcast. You can download all the podcasts in this particular feed, mark all as played, mark all as unplayed, sort the episodes, unsubscribe, and you have podcast settings. So here, on an individual podcast by podcast basis, you can select a start position. So if they have intro music that you want to get past, you can select, I want to skip ahead this many. Now, it is in seconds, so keep that in mind. You have auto download. For some of these, I have set up for auto download, meaning the second that a new episode comes out, it will automatically download to my device. Now, I do have it set so that it will only do so over Wi-Fi because that's one of the options that you have. Auto cleanup is anything older than X amount, it will automatically delete from your device. I don't like that because I don't have a terribly lot of podcasts that I listen to, so I like to manually do that. And then here you have auto queue next episode. I don't do that because I have a specific queue that I set up, which I'll talk about later. And position play last is perfectly fine where it is. Coming back to the main page here, if we hit that back button, we're brought back to this page. And that's what we're looking at for the podcast section. If we come over here and hit this hamburger button, we're brought to discovery. Now, this is how you can discover new podcasts, things that you might not be aware of. Here you have the featured section, which you can scroll through. You see all the colorful art that comes along with it. You have trending, you have top, you have nearby, and you have networks. So that's all in Discovery. Now, the discovery engine in this is really good. You can also come up here and search for something by name. Coming down to new releases, this is generally where I keep my podcast because I have my setup. I like it how it is. And I don't need to discover, I don't need to see the liner. I just want to be able to see what's on my phone right now. Now, again, I said this now playing here at the bottom. There's a reason I left it up because these are podcasts that are currently available. If I drag this to the right, you'll notice that there are now plus signs here. That's because this at the bottom is actually a queue, a play queue. And these particular items have not been added to the queue yet. They have automatically been downloaded to my phone, but they're not part of the queue. If they had not been downloaded to the phone yet, there would be an arrow pointing down, and then you could download it that way. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go click, 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 and add those to the queue. You saw them pop up here on the bottom. If I drag that back over to the left again and click on my play queue, you'll notice that you get the art for the particular podcast, you get a play button, rewind, and a 30-second skip. If I drag to the left, you get all the show notes. Again, a share button, save, how long the episode is, and then all the notes for that episode. This is something I really like because sometimes things are mentioned in the podcast that I'd like to go back and look at. If you drag to the right, here is your queue order. Now you'll notice that here I have some that are a little out of order. I want to drag up this DTNS episode to the rest of the DTNS episodes. You just drag it up there and then it queues it up. You'll notice that it shows 7 episodes and about 4 hours and 36 minutes long. You could then just come up here, hit the X, and that brings you back to the queue page. Or if I go back to the player has options too that I really enjoy. Coming over here, little Z's will let you shut off the pod player after a set period of time. Or we can come over to the options and you can change the playback speed of your podcasts. In my case, I'm listening to a 1.7 speed. You can trim out the silence. So if there's a little space like that, it would automatically cut that out, which is really nice. You have volume boost, which will, for audio podcasts, especially with people talking, will boost the sound of them talking while keeping the rest of the podcast low. I really like that. And then you have the option of applying to all podcasts. Highly recommend doing that. In progress shows anything that you might have in progress. So if you don't complete a full episode but move to another episode, they'll all hang out in here. Episodes that you happen to have starred or are important in some way would show up here. If you notice, when I was in this particular area, I could click that star and then it would end up in the starred area. You have filters that you can do. I don't use that, so I'm not going to begin to talk about that. You have downloads. Downloads are important because here are your downloads. And again, you can queue them up from this particular area. Last but not least is settings. Now the settings is really cool because you'll notice that right now there's this dark theme going on, and that's just it. It is the dark theme for this. You have options at the top: playback, skip and the rewind, how far you want those to do. Play over notifications, so if you get a notification, this will keep going instead of fading out and then coming back. Hide notifications on pause, don't really play with that. Keep screen awake will keep your screen on regardless. I don't do that because I press play and then shove this in my pocket. Stream by default. So one of the things that this can do is, rather than downloading it to your cell phone, it can stream it if you have a good internet connection and unlimited data. If you don't mind that, I do not, so I keep that off. And then you also have use mobile data, so I don't touch that. Coming back down, you have the auto download. I have 3 particular podcasts that I auto download. You'll notice these particulars I do not have checked, so they do not automatically get downloaded. It only happens over Wi-Fi. I could have it where it's on a mobile hotspot or only when it's charging. I do it when it's just on Wi-Fi. That's good enough for me, and I like that. Notifications, pretty much keep this turned off because if you have a lot of podcasts, you get pinged a lot, and I just was not having that. Appearances, again, I have the dark theme. If you select, there is also a light theme, but you have to start the app over in order for that to happen. Use episode artwork, so all those pictures, if you don't want them to save on data, you turn that off. Display images in show notes. Again, if you don't want them to show up to save on data, just click on that. And then here you can refresh your artwork. If for whatever reason there should be artwork and it's not showing up, that's how you click on it and get it back. So I have had to do that before. Pocket Casts has another great feature, which is sync. You can have it show up, where you left off on one podcast on another. There also is a web application that this uses that will allow you to have that synced up there too. I like that a lot too. That was one of the reasons I upgraded to this. However, and I'll show you the web UI a little later, there is an extra fee for that. It is $9 for the web access, but just a one-time fee. So here you can see the last time that it's sunk was 4 minutes ago. I can sign out of my current account. I can refresh app on open, so I kind of like having that happen, and then it checks for a new podcast every hour. Storage, you can select whether it goes to the phone or an SD card if you had one. You can select a specific file location. Auto cleanup, like I said, those older things will get cleaned off if you wanted to. Auto play deleted files, I do like that. So when I reach the end of an episode, it automatically deletes it. And then you have your manual cleanup options down here. I don't use import export, so I'm not going to begin to explain that to you. I do like this status thing, where it will show you how much time you have saved yourself, as well as how long you've listened. Now, the listening time includes cut silence, skipped intros, and sped up. So in my case, since August 7th, 2016, which is when I started using this, I have listened to a total of 12 days and 20 hours worth of podcast. I have saved time by skipping 16 hours worth of content. I've saved myself 8 days with variable speed. I've saved myself 7 hours with the removing of silence, and skipping intros, I've saved 8 hours, saving me a total of 10 days and 2 hours. So that right there is really cool. And one of the reasons that I like Pocket Cast over some other options. So that's the basis of the app itself. Let me show you what the web UI looks like for this. Here what we're looking at is the web user interface for Pocket Cast. Now, it's not perfect, but it is well worth paying for, in my opinion. Right now you're currently looking at the new releases, so it's showing here are all the releases. You'll notice that this one has a white dot next to it as opposed to these over here. That indicates that it has been started to be played, and if we wanted to, we can put check marks next to these saying, hey, we don't want to deal with these. Again, you do have the discovery option here, just like you do on the app itself. If you like web user interfaces for that, this might be better suited for you. In progress, again, it's going to show you all of the in progress things. You can put a check mark there and it will tell it that it's not in progress anymore. You can also come over here and you can favorite it, or you have options, so you can mark as play, share episode, or download the file. If I press play here, you get this player interface. So you still get the 10-second skip backwards, 30-second skip forward, but this is the part that annoys me. This is the speed up, and if you clear your information on your computer, this will always default back to 1. You can increase this back to what you play on your device, but it does not transfer. The other thing is, once this is played to a specific spot and you go back to the app, it can take I want to say 20-30 seconds for the app to realize that you have made changes by listening to it. Come over to starred. If you had any starred, they would show up here. You can search for podcasts here. You can also change the view. Right now I have it in these boxes. I can set it for the grid if I like it that way. I do kind of like the grid, but I wanted to have it exactly as it was on the application itself. And realistically, that's all the web interface is. It's just a way to play the podcasts that you have. Now, the one thing I wish they really would do is have the queue. Notice no place in here shows the queue that I set up for myself. These are all based on release dates and nothing in the in progress area except for the one that I was listening to, which is now down here. So if they could do that, I would really appreciate it. I would even say that it would be easier to say that it costs $9 in order to get to this. So because of all of those reasons, I would highly recommend, at the very least, looking over the free trial period for Pocket Casts here. At the very least, give the developer $4 for this. It is well worth your money and is constantly being updated. The web UI is extra, but for me and the way that I listen to my podcast, no brainer. It's actually one of the reasons I moved to this particular platform. I like it. I can't speak more highly of it. I recommend that you go check it out. I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.